High stakes, hook, and executive overview. The socio-technical reality. Enterprise technology is never the root cause of failure. Human friction is. Today, we are conducting a cold, analytical post-mortem on digital transformation. We watch organizations repeatedly tear out legacy systems, replacing them with highly integrated, incredibly expensive software infrastructures. You, as executives, fund these initiatives. You expect immediate productivity gains. You expect streamlined operations. Yet, the persistent reality is that these deployments crash violently against the walls of human resistance. The failure of these systems to integrate into the daily operational reality of your workforce is not a software defect, it is a severe miscalculation of the socio-technical reality. We are going to dissect exactly why these massive implementations fail. More importantly, we will outline how to engineer structural guardrails that protect your enterprise from catastrophic implementation collapse. We are looking beyond vendor hype to examine the real-world technical debt and human friction that dictate the survival of your organization.
Here is the strict methodology and roadmap for our analysis today. First, the high-stakes hook and executive overview. Second, a detailed operational postmortem. Third, the human blueprint. Fourth, a chronological action plan and guardrails. Section 1. High-stakes hook and executive overview.
The illusion of seamless integration. Enterprise resource planning systems are the digital backbone of your organization. They orchestrate complex, highly interdependent processes across every critical department, from finance to global supply chain. Yet, they frequently fail to deliver a tangible return on investment. This failure stems directly from a profound underinvestment in human methodology. Let us examine the stark operational data. 71% of ERP projects run behind schedule. Furthermore, 38.4% of organizations blow completely past their allocated budgets. The primary catalyst for this financial bleed is a severe underestimation of staffing requirements and the human transition phase. Data integration alone can easily consume 15% of your total implementation costs. When you attempt to execute this without skilled, dedicated personnel managing the human transition, the timeline degrades. Routine tasks drag out, overworked staff inevitably make critical errors, costly rework then destroys your project timeline and erodes executive credibility.
The quantitative proof of change management. The quantitative proof is undeniable. Human factors matter significantly more than technical factors in realizing your ERP benefits. We ground this assertion in 25 years of exhaustive research by Prosci, which analyzed over 10,800 enterprise practitioners. Their findings established a definitive baseline. Initiatives equipped with excellent change management are 6 times more successful than those operating without it. Look closely at the success rates across the spectrum. Projects that deploy excellent change management achieve their stated operational objectives 93% of the time. Contrast that with a catastrophic 15% success rate for initiatives burdened by poor change management. Panorama Consulting Group corroborates the structural reality, demonstrating that executives who invest in a specific dedicated methodology are 33% more likely to achieve optimal outcomes. The data leaves no room for debate. Human friction dictates the outcome, outweighing technical execution by a factor of 6.
Detailed Operational Postmortem. Section 2. Detailed Operational Postmortem.
The collapse of employee resilience. We must ruthlessly diagnose the systemic causes of implementation failure. The core issue emerges when standardized, best practice ERP workflows violently collide with deeply ingrained employee habits. You generate immense organizational friction. Notice the massive multi-year discrepancy in the data. The constant, relentless introduction of new applications and software features triggers acute organizational change fatigue. In 2016, 74% of employees reported a genuine willingness to support enterprise change. By 2023, that number crashed to 41%. This is not a temporary dip in morale. It is the result of cumulative cognitive and physical exhaustion. This continuous cycle of digital disruption leads to a severe drop in individual performance, dropping an employee's intent to stay to an alarming 43%. It triggers severe psychological stress across the workforce. You simply cannot force software adoption onto an exhausted, burned-out workforce and expect a return on your multi-million-dollar investment.
Process before platform. This brings us to a foundational, uncompromising operational rule. Process before platform. Automating broken workflows only scales inefficiencies. Platform upgrades cannot and will never fix broken organizational processes. During these massive digital transformations, up to 80% of employees experience acute cultural tensions. They struggle daily between conflicting operational priorities, constantly forced to choose between raw speed and actual quality. This strategic misalignment causes separate departments to pursue directly conflicting objectives. Marketing pushes for speed, while compliance demands rigorous quality checks. When you layer an expensive ERP system over this dysfunction, you simply automate the internal warfare, wasting massive resources through counterproductive efforts. You must secure, stabilize, and optimize the underlying human process before you ever apply the technological accelerant.
Diagnosing the architecture of pushback. So why do your employees push back so hard? Rick Mauer's resistance to change model breaks this architecture down into 3 distinct levels. Level 1 is purely rational. It is a simple lack of data or genuine confusion about how the new process actually works. Level 2 is emotional. This is the primal fight-or-flight fear of losing operational status, influence, or control over their daily work. Level 3 is relational. This represents deep institutional mistrust of executive leadership, usually based on a history of past negative experiences and failed rollouts. The fatal executive error is treating all organizational resistance as level 1. Responding to profound emotional terror and entrenched institutional mistrust by simply sending out more PDF data sheets and generic instructional emails is a devastating miscalculation. It actively guarantees entrenched, silent resistance that will quietly bankrupt your deployment.
The Human Blueprint, Section 3. The Human Blueprint.
Operationalizing joint optimization. Having diagnosed the systemic failures, we must apply the exact theoretical frameworks required to protect what we call employee identity capital. True transformation requires significantly more than just crossing the IT deployment finish line. To achieve true lasting adoption, we apply socio-technical theory. Specifically, we look at Enid Mumford's ethics framework, which strictly mandates joint optimization. The premise is unbreakable. If you only optimize the technical software logic while completely ignoring the social subsystem of human needs, the total system fails. The people whose daily working lives are directly altered by a new computer architecture are intrinsically the most qualified to design what that system should actually do. Mandating user participation in systems design is not a token human resources gesture to boost morale. It is a strict operational necessity to ensure the software matches the reality of the floor.
Protecting identity capital, Mumford defined 5 core non-negotiable needs for job satisfaction within the ethics framework. First, knowledge. The system must allow users to fully utilize their existing skills. Second, psychological. The environment must provide recognition and meaningful responsibility. Third, task. The work must offer structural variety and genuine autonomy. Fourth, support and control. Management must provide appropriate tools and fair supervision. Fifth, ethical. The rollout must guarantee fair treatment and transparent executive communication. Here is the uncompromising bottom line for your architecture. Systems that deliberately remove human judgment, destroy task variety, or systematically de-skill your workers will inevitably face fierce middle management resistance. This resistance does not end with complaints. It ends with the deliberate, quiet sabotage of your multi-million-dollar platform. The technology must enrich the human role, never diminish it.
Integrating macro and micro frameworks. To successfully operationalize these concepts at an enterprise scale, we integrate 2 complementary frameworks. Kotter's 8-step model provides the macro-level, top-down structural governance. It focuses entirely on establishing executive vision, manufacturing operational urgency, and ensuring long-term cultural anchoring. Conversely, ProSci's ADKAR model operates strictly at the micro level. It tracks the bottom-up behavioral journey of the individual employee through awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. Integrating both approaches is highly effective and strategically necessary. Consider the firm EisnerAmper. They utilize this exact integrated strategy to systematically transition over 3,300 employees off legacy platforms, migrating them onto 4 entirely new, highly integrated systems over a disciplined 18-month timeline.
Evading the shelfware trap. How do we quantitatively measure this acceptance in real time? We rely on the Technology Acceptance Model, commonly referred to as TAM. This information systems theory dictates that actual, voluntary system use is governed entirely by 2 primary variables. The first is perceived usefulness, meaning the software actively enhances their job performance. The second is perceived ease of use, meaning the platform provides freedom from unnecessary cognitive effort. If your dashboard only tracks IT deployment metrics, you are actively building shelfware. Shelfware refers to incredibly expensive, fully licensed enterprise tools that gather digital dust simply because they are too difficult to operate or offer 0 perceived value to the end user. Your organizational measurement metrics must completely shift away from simple deployment status tracking. You must measure actual, verifiable behavioral change and long-term adoption metrics.
Chronological Action Plan and Guardrails, Section 4. Chronological Action Plan and Guardrails.
The pacing limit of transformation. You cannot rush the timeline of human adaptation. The true pacing limit of digital transformation is no longer software development velocity or cloud server provisioning. It is strictly the speed of human cognitive and cultural adaptation. We structure this enterprise rollout using Procai's three-phase process. This framework maps perfectly over Kurt Lewin's foundational unfreeze, change, and refreeze concept. Phase 1 is prepare the approach. You unfreeze the legacy status quo by rigorously defining baseline stability. Phase 2 is manage the change. Here you actively execute the rule of process before platform, pushing the new workflows into production. Phase 3 is sustain the outcomes. You must refreeze the corporate culture, installing structural guardrails so the organization does not quietly regress to its comfortable legacy habits.
Securing Phase A stability. Within this preparation timeline, achieving Phase A stability is a strict, non-negotiable operational directive. You must secure baseline core integrity before you even consider attempting any advanced workflow automation. The sequence is absolute. You complete your full data migration. You establish perfectly clean, fully reconciled financial ledgers. You finalize complete and total inventory validation. These are the mandatory prerequisites. If you attempt to accelerate the timeline by layering new automated workflows over corrupted database tables or unstable financial baselines, the results are catastrophic. You will exponentially scale the legacy errors at the speed of the new processors, ultimately crashing the entire enterprise system. Stability always, without exception, precedes optimization.
Deploying context-aware guardrails. During Phase 2, you will find that traditional enterprise training methods completely fail. Classroom sessions and static PDF manuals are obsolete. They do not match the exact point of user need, which occurs days or weeks later when the employee is actually facing the interface. Instead, we engineer structural guardrails by introducing digital adoption platforms, or DApps, such as WalkMe. Think of a DApp as a highly interactive GPS navigation system overlaying your complex software applications. It delivers context-aware, step-by-step guidance directly in the flow of work, precisely when the user hesitates. The data proves the efficacy of this architecture. This approach eliminates 70% of traditional training time, resources, and associated costs. It permanently ends the exhausting cycle of remedial training by helping employees master the change exactly when and where they encounter friction on the glass.
The financial imperative of digital friction. The financial impact of systematically minimizing this digital friction is massive. IDC data reveals a compelling financial truth regarding digital adoption platforms. Systems like WalkMe deliver a verified 3-year return on investment of 494%. When applied correctly, large enterprises save an average of $4.9 million monthly with a mature digital adoption strategy. This precise financial return is achieved by cutting lost productivity costs by 23%, while simultaneously boosting overall application utilization by 30%. You need to understand that you are not just buying another layer of software. You are deploying a critical operational guardrail. It saves millions in lost human productivity, and it actively prevents your massive ERP implementation from crashing under the weight of user confusion.
Architecting enterprise survival. We conclude with a sharp, unavoidable reality. The human being operating the system cannot and will not adapt at the speed the software can be configured. If your executive board continues to treat user resistance, chronic change fatigue, and system shelfware as minor IT deployment issues, your digital transformations will systematically fail. You must stop simply pushing code into production. You must start actively protecting the identity capital of your workforce. The operational mandate for modern leadership is clear, and the stakes are absolute. Are you merely deploying a platform, or are you actively architecting the socio-technical survival of your enterprise? The answer to that specific question dictates the future existence of your corporation.